yeah. So, got my good friend Needle right here. So, winter is coming, but it already came for Lyanna Stark. Let's talk about it. So, I got this idea in my head a couple of weeks ago, having a conversation with my friend. We were getting into this really big discussion about like the Stark family, and she brought up Lyanna Stark, and we started talking about her. And what I've noticed with Lyanna Stark, and I'm gonna get into who she is and everything, but what I noticed about Lyanna Stark is like she's one of these characters in Game of Thrones that you cannot speak bad about. Like Lyanna Stark is like, oh, she's the most precious thing in the world, and oh, angelic Lyanna Stark, we hold her up so high, and it's such high regard. We love her. She's so beautiful. I'm not exactly sure. Lyanna Stark, you might be a thought. You might be a thought, Lyanna. Now let's go over it. Let's talk about it. First, let's break it down. Who is Lyanna Stark? So, if you don't know about Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, sometimes I'll refer to Game of Thrones when I'm talking about the show, Song of Ice and Fire when I'm talking about either the book or Fire and Blood or, one of those chapters. So, Lyanna Stark is the daughter of Rickard Stark. She's the sister of Ned Stark. So we all know Ned Stark. We know Benjen Stark. Lyanna is the sister. She's the sister younger than them, but she's older than Benjen Stark, who goes on to become Cold Hands. So she's older than Benjen. Lyanna died when she was 16. So, she didn't really get to live long enough to like make all these bad mistakes and have this long history of all these things that she's done. Like people like Maegor and Aegon and Cersei, they got this long laundry list of shit that they've done in their life. But, precious Lyanna Stark has died at the tender age of 16. So she had done nothing wrong. When in actuality, in my opinion, Lyanna Stark is responsible for thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deaths. Let's talk about, again, why. Lyanna Stark. When you talk about her in the book, any character, when they describe Lyanna Stark, what's the first thing they say? Beautiful. She's so beautiful. And according to Ned, she looks like Arya. But what we know about Arya, not Maisie Williams, when we know about Arya in the book, they call her Arya Horseface. So exactly how pretty is Lyanna Stark if she looks like Arya, who they refer to as Horseface? Roose Bolton referred to Lyanna Stark as a centaur. Now that's probably because she's a fierce rider, or maybe she looks like the horse. We don't know. Roose Bolton is not really one on giving compliments. So, whenever Roose Bolton says something about you, I'm like, I'm not exactly going to take that as a compliment. Lyanna Stark, again, she's, the daughter of Ned Stark. She's this beautiful woman. They talk about how much she's a fierce rider. She rode like a man of the North. And her dad, the women, she wouldn't get a sword. She couldn't do that, but she could have, she had a sword. She'd probably be the most fierce warrior in all of the Seven Kingdoms. Oh, I'm sorry, I was falling asleep. Anyway, so like when we talk about her being a fierce rider, if you know anything about during the tournament at Harrenhal, where she comes upon Howland Reed and he's being bullied and beaten up by 3 squires. And she's all like, oh, that's my father's man. Leave him alone. Don't mess with him. You don't know who he is. So the next day, the night of the Laughing Tree, the Mystery Knight, rides these 3 squires down, beats them, of course, beats them and tells their master, their owners or whoever the fuck, with squires, they tell their owners, you teach these guys some discipline, you teach them some humility and to be better. I don't want the money, I don't want anything, you just beat them. So, the squires all got beaten, humiliated. And when Howland Reed, goes looking for this Mystery Knight, it's gone. And all that's left is the shield with the Laughing Tree. So I've always been thinking that person was Lyanna Stark. Like for a while, I thought it was Sir Duncan the Tall, but I'm starting to believe it's Lyanna Stark because through the whole thing, she was nowhere around, so maybe that was Lyanna Stark. So she's this great rider. She's this competitor. She's this woman. So what happens to Lyanna Stark? I'm going to give you the known version that the Maesters and the Scepters run around telling everyone. Lyanna Stark was kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen, and she was forced away and raped and just abused for all these months and then just died, and it was so sad. That's what people say. And if you start, like, when you get a little deeper into the books, you do a deep dive and you start putting things together, I'm not exactly sure, especially when you hear people like Barristan Selmy say that he his she-wolf, and even Viserys, who doesn't like anything or anyone, was like, Rhaegar died for the woman he loved. And what I like about what Viserys says is like, whether Rhaegar raped her or not, it doesn't matter. The dragon answers to no one. So I'm like, yeah, that's right. But anyway, so Lyanna Stark, she's supposed to be getting married to Robert Baratheon, and she doesn't really like him. And she heard about Robert and his ways, because Robert's he runs around just spreading his seed all over the Seven Kingdoms. He's got 1,000,001 bastard children all over the place. And Lyanna's all like, I don't want to marry him, Ned, because I heard he cheats on women and he's not, good. Now remember that part right there, Lyanna. I don't want to marry Robert because, oh, let me get the direct quote. Love is sweet, dearest Ned, but it cannot change a man's nature. Oh, so she doesn't want to marry Rhaegar because he's going to cheat on her. Oh, no. Okay, so she doesn't want to marry Robert because he's going to cheat on her. Okay, great. So then she's abducted after the tourney because, in the tournament, Rhaegar wins and he goes over and hands Lyanna the flowers. This is like the queen of beauty or whatever. You give them the flowers and he hands it to her on the tip of his sword instead of handing it to his wife. Oh, you didn't know Rhaegar was married? Oh yeah, Rhaegar was married to Princess of Dorne, Elia. So, Lyanna, you don't want to marry Robert Baratheon, but because, he might cheat on you, but you have no problem being all googly-eyed and with you and Rhaegar, Kiki, it's so cute, he gave me the flowers, Kiki. And, Robert was laughing like, ha ha, but in his heart, he was like, no, that was not cute. And even Barristan Selmy was like, that was not a good look. You should not have done that. So maybe, a little while later, she's somewhere near Harrenhal, and with the help of the Sword of the Morning, they whisk Lyanna away. Now, I'm not going to say kidnapped or anything. She's whisked away with, to God knows where. She ends up in Dorne, but God knows where, because it's with a year from the time she disappeared to the time Ned found her. So she disappears, and her brother, Rickard Stark, is like, that's messed up. I'm going to go to King's Landing and tell Aerys, that's my family. You don't mess with my family, which I think is kind of stupid. Like, you don't go to someone who is known as the Mad King demanding that his son come out and die. Rhaegar, come out and face me and die. And Aerys is like, word, that's my son you're talking about, my guy. I got something for you, black cell. So, yeah, he's in a black cell. So now he has to get his dad. Rickard Stark comes down there and is like, release my son, your highness, because you're talking to the king. First of all, show some respect. But it's like, release my son and discipline your son. He should be killed and all this stuff. Killed? You want to kill Rhaegar because he took your friend's girl? Okay, because it wasn't even Ned. Ned and Robert were the ones close. It was Brandon, because he went after the sister. Oh no, what's going on? Bring her back. And Aerys is like, I can take both of you. I got enough cells for everyone here. So what happens? We all know what happens. He demands a trial by combat. And who is the champion of the House Targaryen? Fire. So we know that Rickard Stark is dying. He dies, and Brandon Stark dies. And then that's what happens. It's like, okay, you've gone too far now. Because now you're asking for Jon Arryn to kill Ned. So the Mad King, he's going mad, doing all this stuff. Now, this is about Lyanna still, because all of this is transpiring because she was kidnapped. She's so wholesome and pure. Rhaegar must have taken. Even Robert says, God knows what the man did to her for all these, what kind of, atrocities he's done to her. Meanwhile, they're sipping champagne. They're having milk of the poppy and getting high off of Dornish Reds and all this kind of stuff. And everyone else in the whole kingdom is going crazy. And she's somewhere booed up with Rhaegar Targaryen. Now, I get it. He's the crown prince. He's handsome. He's got the silver hair. He's going to be the next in line. All the women want him. Cersei wants him. Everybody wants Rhaegar. No, I want her. He doesn't even want his own wife because he's not happy. He's not happy with her. So that's why he did this with Lyanna. And she's more than willing to go. So she goes, and what happens? Jaime Lannister, we know what happened. Jaime Lannister kills Aerys. Tywin Lannister comes, sacks the city. And then Ned, he goes to relieve storms and is like, hey, you know what? Rhaegar, he came out of hiding finally. They was doing their Netflix and chill thing. So Rhaegar decides to come out and see what all the hubbub is about when people are dying and everything. And they're like, Do you hear something? No, turn the volume up. So Rhaegar goes out and he immediately gets killed by Robert at the Trident. When Ned gets to, he gets to Storm's End. They're not there. So, okay, where does he go? He remembers the Tower of Joy. I guess Rhaegar must have mentioned it sometime or whatever. So he gets to Dorne, and that's where, I think we see that in the show. It's not exactly like that in the book, somewhat, but we see it in the show where he goes there and he fights the Sword and Morn. He brings Howland Reed, and Howland Reed, the little sucker that he is, he had to be saved by Lyanna. Then he stabs the dude in the back. That's why Ned was like, looked at him when he stabbed him, like, bro, that was dishonorable. But anyway, and then he goes up there and Lyanna, Ned, promise me, Ned, promise me. And now, we don't really know what Lyanna asked him to promise. According to Game of Thrones, which is not exactly canon, season 8, and we will talk about season 8 at another time. It is not exactly canon, so we don't really know what she asked, but we know it was to protect their baby because, if he's a Targaryen, Robert's going to know. So again, remember that. Now she's to protect the baby because, they'll have him killed, Okay, fine. So after that happens, we know what happens next. That's the events that start season 1 of Game of Thrones, and then everything goes on from there. And, even though Tyrion Lannister said something to the effect of all of this started because Robert Baratheon loved the woman who didn't love him back. Not exactly true. That's a way, way oversimplification of it, because what really happened, even when, Rhaegar took her, Robert didn't raise his banners, Jon didn't raise, and Ned didn't raise his banners, the Arryns, Riverrun, no one said anything. They was like, oh, okay, well, that's domestic beef. Let Rhaegar and Robert and them work that out. We're not going to war because you're having a fight. That was not what that was about. Then when the Mad King murders the 2 older Starks, that's when, and calls for the death of Ned and Jon, what's his name, Robert Baratheon. That's when Jon Arryn was like, nah, you're going too far now. We're going to raise our banners. We're going to marry each other's people's kids and everything, bring them together, get Riverrun, we're getting everybody in here. Mad King, you're out. That's why that happened. So I'm thinking that maybe even if Rickard Stark and all his masculinity didn't go rolling up to the Red Keep talking about let me go, let her go and all of this shit, and we're going to kill Rhaegar, bring your son out here so I can kill him. Maybe none of that wouldn't have happened, or who knows. But we do know this. Lyanna Stark not wanting to marry Robert Baratheon because he might cheat on her was perfectly fine with Rhaegar Targaryen cheating on his wife, embarrassing her in front of the whole tournament, because everyone was at the tournament. That was the tournament where Jaime Lannister was knighted and where the Mad King came out. Everyone was there. And you embarrass her like that, and Lyanna, oh, that was so funny. She's giggling. It was cute. You know what I'm saying? But you don't want to marry Robert because he might cheat on you. But it's okay if Rhaegar is disrespecting his wife and disrespecting Dorne and disrespecting everyone else. And you were just like, oh, that's cute. That's fine. So now think about this here. Caitlin Tully, she was kind of feeling Brandon Stark, She liked him. She was going to marry him. And she wanted him. But then, of course, he goes off and gets killed. So now we still need alliance. You have to marry his brother, Ned. And she's like, So think about having like a steak dinner with potatoes and fine Dornish red. That's Brandon Stark. And then Ned Stark is like a nice sourdough mayonnaise sandwich. But what did Caitlin Tully do? Did she say, I'm in love with Brandon and I'm not going to marry him because love? No, she remembered her house words, family, honor, and duty, and she married Ned Stark anyway. She did not want to. She married Ned Stark anyway. Same thing, Cersei. She was in love with Rhaegar. She wanted to marry him. And not just to be the queen, but she wanted to marry Rhaegar because she loved him. Because when her dad offered her to marry Robert Baratheon, well, didn't offer, he told her to marry Robert Baratheon, you'll still be the queen. She wasn't all like, yeah, I'm going to be the queen. It's like, I don't really love him, but I'll still be the queen. And I love Jaime anyway. So, it doesn't matter. So, but she did what she had to do. She didn't want to. She never wanted that. And she stayed in that marriage up until the boar. But this is what I'm saying. So Lyanna Stark, even now, okay, let's start again. Ned Stark, when, Catelyn, when you married me, you married the North and all of this pride and honor and this Northern pride. So Lyanna Stark raised in that same house with Ned Stark, who took that secret to his grave, even though it messed up the secret about, Jon Snow. He took that secret to his grave and messed up his family, and his wife hates him because of that. It's low-key, she hates him for that. He still didn't tell because honor. And what did Lyanna Stark do when it was time for her to do her honor? Nah, I'm not feeling him. I like Rhaegar better. Rhaegar got a better car. He's hotter. He got more rubies in his armor, And he's married. He's cheating on his wife. But it's okay, though, because he's Rhaegar, right? That you understand, right? It's Rhaegar. So, I don't know, Lyanna. If it was me and I'm Lyanna Stark and my family comes to me and tells me I have to marry this guy here because we're going to join Storm's End in the North, we'll always have this alliance. And I'm like, but no, I like Littlefinger. I like the stable. I like Hodor or Hot Pie or somebody. It's like, no, you're going to shut up. You're going to do your duty. You're going to marry this person. You're going to join these kingdoms. And that's the end of it. And that's the way it was done for hundreds of years until Lyanna Stark decided, no, I don't like him anymore. I want to marry Rhaegar. I want to be Rhaegar. And then she goes, while people are dying all around her, she's laid up pregnant with someone else's, husband's kid. Even though they had the secret annulment and stuff. It's crap, honey. That's crap because you were scared that Robert might do something to you. But you went ahead, and what about Elia? When she saw that happen, did you think about what she was saying, the Princess of Dorne? What was her face like? She was probably like, this dirty motherfucker. She was probably like, that's not cute at all. So, to wrap this up, I can talk about this for hours because I am not feeling Lyanna Stark. I do not feel like she is this precious, holier than thou, this creature that we must hold up, and she's just so exalted and beautiful. Lyanna Stark, and she's in the crypt, and Robert comes all the way from King's Land, and the first thing does go straight down to the crypt to visit Lyanna's her grave and stuff. And I'm like, did somebody ever tell Robert, she was with Rhaegar by herself, on her own free will. Maybe he might not have cared as much. He might have been like, oh, then screw her. I got 100 million mistresses and stuff. I do what I do. I'm the king. I don't care no more. So, I don't know. What do you think? But I think Lyanna Stark is a thought. That's all it is. Now, I don't know if they had that word back in Westerosi times, thought. They had whore. I don't want to go so far as to call her a whore, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, Billie Jean, the Last Targaryen, the Black Dread. I'm here in Maegor's Holdfast. Catch you next time.